the rural areas. And unfortunately, he just couldn't get used to that support. He even, for example, went through phases in his life where even though he was at home, he would go outside in the middle of the night because of whatever he was going through, and he would sleep behind one of our sheds or in the shed, and he wouldn't feel comfortable sleeping on a bed, for example. And he said, "Well, I just remember all my friends, my community in Edmonton, the people that I live with. They're really cold right now, or they're going through something, and the community I love." And so he would always feel drawn back to that community, the people here in Edmonton. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Judith Gale. Judith Gale's a fantastic advocate. She's a warrior. She's a champion on our streets. She's a champion for our relatives. She's a champion for the people of our city in a real way. I feel safe knowing that Pierre, probably knew Judith. She probably helped Pierre many, many times as an older gentleman living on the streets. And he found comfort in his community. And so the savior attitude we have is, I think, something I want to really address. It's this oddness that we have to help them, and it takes away their dignity. My cousin Pierre's dignity of being someone who was able to survive off that circumstance, and we don't ever recognize that resilience. But it's the systems that get them there that we found out later on in life that he could never escape. He was someone who came from a rural area, and this is so common for Indigenous people who end up on our streets in Edmonton, which is overwhelmingly Indigenous on our streets, is they often enter the streets by way of the remand center, actually. So when they get into custody for something really minor, often something like they call it food fraud. So when they go into a restaurant and they try to get some food and they have no money, they call the police. The city police show up and they say, "Oh, you didn't pay this. We're going to put you in the remand." Then they go through processing in the remand center. And then they're sitting there in this cave, this huge cell of 50 people waiting to get processed for just having to find food for themselves. And then they're lucky sometimes if they even get a cell. Sometimes they don't. And they have to stay in the holding area for a very long time just to be re-released back onto the streets hungry again. And then to be picked up over and over. And all of a sudden they have this mark on their record. They can never get back up. And so our society is framed so differently, where we think that, for example, social housing is the only solution. That's a great solution. It's a goal of ours, but it's not the only solution. We have to find ways to give families and those who are relatives of the people on the streets the dignity to know that they also have the solutions in this, and they should be part of the conversation. They're stakeholders in their own future. They're stakeholders in their own reality. They're citizens of this city, and they have a voice. I see in many ways Judith being almost the only comments that I really resonated with over the last few days about this stuff. Judith, for example, says, "Leave community to help community because we know best." And that's so true. But there's also, so many organizations that do this every single day in our city. And where is the daily support from the city council with those groups? They should be meeting with the city council today, talking about what they need right now. This not just during emergency weather situations, but all the time, where we can look at ways to get that support. For example, if they do enter the remand center, where is the support? And I heard the mayor say there's going to be an inquiry about this stuff, but he also has this platform of saying, we're going to end homelessness in 10 years. I remember when I first started my role working on behalf of Metis in Alberta, meeting with the city on this anti-poverty strategy, and they said it's going to be solved in 10 years. We're in year 11 of that. So what I'd like to see in this inquiry is some special attention to this strategy and if it's sufficient, or where it's going, or where the gaps are.
Yeah, are we, this is a weird thing to ask you live, Sam. Are we still on YouTube? It looks.
We are. We dropped for a bit. It's been a very strange internet connection
day.
We
are on YouTube?
We are on YouTube live now. Yes, we are.
Okay, good. Blake, my apologies for that.
You missed me.
No, we're this has just been an absolutely wild day with regards to tech. I just, to me, I know that the mayor on this story, has called this heartbreaking and frustrating to watch. If people, I haven't really spelled out what happened here, but it's absolutely despicable. Sunday evening around 8:00, it was minus 33 outside, minus 33. And Edmonton police officers showed up to Edmonton's Central LRT station, a train station, where people, including Judith Gale, who you talked about, Blake, who you referenced, people were there with the Bear Clan patrol, with Edmonton Beaver Hills House, providing food, sandwiches to unhoused individuals. Per Gale's testimony and her comments to reporters, I'm citing Lauren Boothby's report with the Edmonton Journal, police officers actually pulled soup and sandwiches out of people's hands and kicked them out into the cold. It's being described as dehumanizing, an act of terror. Says this person they could have died, and that is absolutely accurate. Now, there's room for talk about ending homelessness and this, that, and the other. We just talked to Don Iveson about that about 2 weeks ago. I have my own thoughts on that, but I just wonder, like, to me, at a very basic level, people are saying, oh, yeah, well, the two police officers met with Ms. Gale on Tuesday afternoon, and they apologized, and they acknowledged they didn't act properly. Like, who the hell? I heard one of these individuals didn't even have a shoe on. Who in the hell would find it within themselves to kick somebody? And I've got a city councilor sending me messages right now, and I'm not going to name them because, but they're saying, hey, it's actually the transit drivers union has some stipulations here that actually if the city allows, homeless people to take shelter in transit stations, the transit drivers have it in their contract that they can just walk off the job. It's a safety issue and this, that, and the other. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, these are human beings. Mm-hmm. Human beings. And like the police officer that's going to apologize, I don't buy that. And people are going to say, not all police and this, that. Yeah, fair enough. Fine. But it makes me really, really nervous that an individual that would find it in themselves, and you're going to say, what would you do, Ryan, if you were a police officer? Quite frankly, if my order was to get him out of the transit station, I'd probably defy the order. And I'm going to get some smart ass saying, well, you'd be on suspension. I don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about kicking people out into minus 33, regardless of who they are. That is a character flaw at the deepest level, and that concerns me, Blake. And I suspect I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm thinking of that Rage Against the Machine lyric, right? Like some of those that work forces. That's what I'm thinking of right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, the frustrating part is that in many ways, you hit the nail on the head in terms of it's a safety issue. I hear this all the time. There's going to be a safety issue with these people. There's so much stigma. These people don't even know them. How can you judge someone by just looking at them at a bus stop or an LRT station and say, you're unsafe? These are public spaces. These are people whose lands that we've called home for thousands of years. And it just hits at the psychological root of Canadians in some ways, is that it's like clearing the plains, and it reinforces in so many ways that Indigenous people or people who are living in poverty are just not wanted in our society. And we have the right to just ignore them. We have the right to call the police on them. We have the right to disavow them from public spaces. And what Judith did in standing up for those folks that day was she demonstrated what we should all be doing. Everyone in that space should have said, what are you folks doing? Are you trying to kick these people out? Put them into the weather, put them into death situations. There's a lack of humanity, and the institutionalized racism that the city police are leaning on is that it was a safety issue or it was their orders. Their job is to serve and protect, and Judith said that. And did they serve and protect? No. So we need a serious mirror check on where how our dollars are spent, on how the police are actually making these decisions and why, who made that decision that the police should remove them from this space, especially considering the Bear Clan's been doing this for months now. They've been doing it at Central LRT station for months now, and there was no problem and folks were getting help. And then all of a sudden, this one time the police get sent and it's their way or the highway. There was no consultation with the community. There was no consultation with anyone, and someone has to be held responsible. Somebody put those folks in a death situation. Yeah. And we need to get down to the bottom of that.
But
because
Blake,
the stigma's real.
You say we need to know why. We know why. It's racism. I'm gonna say it's racism. People can Google Starlight Tours. People can Google we know why, right? We know why.
Exactly. Yeah, we know why it's racism is just one part of it, but there's also classism. There's so many layers, there's lenses on this issue where folks believe that money is worth more than humans. And this is an area where I really do believe that our houseless community is champions in. They know what good humanity looks like. I spend so much time looking for Pierre in the last year, bumping into him here and there. The people I've always met him with, his community, his friends, they're the nicest people I've ever met. They're the safest people I've ever met. Have they ever thrown a racial slur at me? No, never. Has lawyers, people who are supposed to be well off in our society, do they? Yeah. So I really question, what's the real problem here? It's not so much the houseless community. The community there is fine. They're surviving. They're resilient, and they just need a hand up. And we need to really check ourselves and think about what the problem is with the people around the houseless community. Is how are we interacting with them, and how are we treating them, or how are we indignifying them by treating them like victims all the time? When in many ways they see the lack of humanity we have, and we need to call ourselves to that action and say, we need to get back to being real humans here and seeing people in need and understanding that we're allowed to make choices based on that need. And we don't need to enforce this removal policy that the city police just keep barking up. Sorry's not enough. I stand with Judith and the Bear Clan patrol folks and demanding a public apology as well. We need someone to say this is wrong and someone to say why. Just like you said, Ryan, someone needs to say it, stand on a podium and say this was racism. We failed as a society, and here's how we're going to actually make it better. We have a lot more distance to travel on this issue, and I really do think it means bringing in those community stakeholders and hearing what they have to say, listening to their frustrations, because I'm frustrated. Because if my uncle didn't pass away in November, my cousin Pierre didn't pass away in November, the cold weather could have taken him anytime now, and people are concerned right now. It's going to be cold again. It's not going to stop being cold, and we need to figure this issue out yesterday. People or they're going to die. This is not their issue thing. This is our issue thing. Everyone in the city is responsible for what happened.
Blake Desjarlais is the Director of Public and National Affairs with the Metis Settlements General Council. Thrilled that we were able to get you on the show today. I know that you shuffled some of your morning around to accommodate us, which we greatly appreciate, and we'll look forward to talking to you again, Blake. Thank you for your advocacy, and if I may say, though I never met him, I know for a fact that you have made your cousin Pierre very proud today, and you have honored his memory, and I thank you for that.
Thanks so much, Ryan, and on behalf of my family, yeah, and we say thanks so much for the opportunity and remembering Pierre for who he was. He was a kind man. He was a jokester. He was someone who made up a great part of our city and a great part of our Métis community. And he deserves that recognition. And thanks so much for saying that, because he's a great man who will be missed.
Hi, Blake. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you again soon.
In a while.
Real talkers are chiming in on this. Blake is obviously very well spoken, very articulate, and he's being diplomatic, and he's saying, I'm frustrated. I'm pissed. I don't know about you. Like, to give you a sense of, if you're watching, you may be, watching this or listening to this podcast later from New Zealand or Vancouver Island or, somewhere where maybe you're wearing flip-flops today, but where we live in Edmonton, Alberta, we're talking about in minus 33. I mean, we didn't walk our dogs this weekend, and they have coats. Our dogs have coats. Like, I'm not talking like they have thick fur. I'm talking they have actual coats that are fancier than my coat, quite frankly, but that's a whole other issue for another day. We didn't walk them with their coats on because it was too cold. Okay? Our dogs. Edmonton police officers, and I bet you that there are Edmonton police officers that are going to hear this. I hope that you write the show, talk@ryanjesperson.com. I hope you tell me how appalled you are. I hope you tell me how disgusted you are. I mean, we talked about whistleblowers earlier. I would love to see a little whistleblowing on what goes on within police departments. The city of Edmonton is not alone here. The city of Saskatoon, police departments in Saskatchewan have real problems. Racism is a problem in the context of policing. Now, I don't even know why I have to qualify this. Maybe I don't, but I'm just going to say, I know people are going to flip out and police officers, you don't even know it. They go to work every day. They never know it. And it's true. Calgary police officer, dragged under a vehicle and killed on New Year's Eve. We recognize that family is mourning. We recognize he gave his life in the line of duty. Daniel Woodall, the constable in Edmonton, shot through the door, executing a warrant as part of the hate crimes unit, doing incredibly important work. Daniel Woodall, I know, was proud of the work he was doing in the anti-hate network. This is not an attack on police, but policing has been rotten to the core, and I would maybe say globally, but at least in North America for a long time. Can you call up the video from Chinook Center? You know exactly the one I'm talking about. Let me show you an example. Let me show you kind of the dichotomy here with regards to what police officers in Alberta were up to over the weekend. Okay, so it's 33 degrees below zero, which is cold. Like minus 20 is cold. Minus 33 is like Arctic, like tundra, like freezing, like you're out of ice cubes, put it outside, and 5 minutes later you got ice cubes. Like that's kind of how cold it is. So Edmonton police officers are going into a transit center. Like who gives a shit that there are people taking shelter in the who cares? As we're all here in front of our, like it's cold outside, I guess we better turn up the natural gas fireplace, right? That's our reality. Better stay in the Uggs sandals. And okay, well, I guess we'll go to this now. So here's what's going on in Calgary. Hey, bro, to the anti-masker, to the people defying public health orders, to the dozens and dozens of people that showed up without masks, en masse, shoulder to shoulder, endangering people's health in Calgary. What's up, bro? Handshake, hug. Hey, yeah, everybody, hands up. Yeah, the cop, yeah, what's up? What's up, everybody? Thanks. Kind of puffing out his chest, feeling pretty good about himself. Making friends with all these jerks, right? You want to defy public health orders. You want to endanger everybody's life. You want to show up without a mask. You want to get people sick. The Blues got your back. You want to try to stay alive in minus 33. You don't have shoes. You don't have resources. You sure as hell don't have a place to go. You're hungry. You're beaten down. It's temperatures like these have been in place for 2 weeks straight. You've been fighting to survive. You finally find an all-concrete transit station. We're not talking about people that are taking shelter in the lobby of the Fairmont. We're talking about people that are in the transit center because they're trying to stay alive. And our police officers have nothing better to do but to go in and flush them all out, to take the sandwiches out of their hand. I'm getting more and more upset the longer that I talk about this. Damn straight the police officers are going to meet up with community activists and apologize. That's the least they should do. Well, if they're just following orders, who gave the order? Put that person on suspension. Edmonton's police chief, and yes, we'll put in an interview request with Dale McPhee. Yes, Edmonton's police chief there must be a public apology. How can you accept the fact? I'm honest. I think the show's going to end early today because I'm shaking. The more I think about this, I am so fucking angry about this. How dare you? These are human beings. I don't know. I'm not even, you know what? Honestly, guys, I love you guys. It's been a frustrating morning for us. The powerful guests that we've had interrupted time and time and time again. I almost feel like the universe has been trying to interrupt these conversations today. The Wi-Fi has been lousy on all three of our segments. Our YouTube channel dropped out. We've got a few of you back now, not many. Want to let you know the podcast is still rolling. So if you're listening to us on the podcast, you're going to hear this whole thing. I almost feel like these important conversations we're having about whistleblowing and moral courage and treating the houseless like humans, like the universe has been trying to stop these conversations today, and we will not be stopped. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because I am all kinds of worked up right now. I'm going to thank a few sponsors, and we're going to sign off. All right? And I'm going to tell you what. I hope that you make your way. I don't even know how I'm going to do sponsor reads right now. Make your way through today with this type of attitude. Hell no. I find myself in such a tough position, because the other day, 2 police officers are driving through our neighborhood, and our little guy gets super excited. I said, "Why, police officers?" And he waves at them, and they do their thing. They hit the lights. They whoop, whoop. And he just was delighted. And we know that if you're ever in trouble, little guy, you can go to the police officers. If you're ever in trouble, you call 911. We've showed him how to call 911 on our phones, and the police will be here to help. And he's 5, so I haven't yet talked to him about what it's like to grow up upper middle class, privileged, and white. What do you think the conversation's like on a First Nations reserve? What do you think the conversation's like in the inner city? You know, when they see that cruiser come through. "Oh, Ryan, you don't know what it's like to be a police officer in Masquachese. You have no idea." Yeah, you're right, I don't. You're right, I don't. But if you're not cut out to be able to deal with that, maybe you should find a different occupation. Because if the stress of your job, or if the deep-rooted racism that runs through your veins is putting you in a position where your heart is so cold that you're taking people from a humble circumstance of survival, a slightly heated concrete LRT station, and kicking them out into -33 without shoes on and hungry. What do you even say to that? These are people with badges and guns. These are people, I mean, I can't be alone on this. So the next time that you hear from a city councilor about why it's, there's protocol and the transit drivers would walk off the job, or the mayor, we're going to end homelessness in 10, or the prime minister, we're going to take homelessness seriously. Like how? We had this sort of double whammy panel on the show. I don't know if you remember this, like 2-3 weeks ago, something like that. We talked about homelessness and ending it with 6 experts in the city. And even at the end of that, great ideas, lots of research, really smart people that are like really giving their lives to this. But at the end, real talk, like at the end of this, at the end of those conversations, did anybody feel like anything was actually going to change? Has anything changed? Is this despicable, deplorable, disgusting smear of an incident on Sunday night in Edmonton going to change anything? Or pretty soon when it's -2 and then it's +5 and then the tulips are up, are we going to forget about it? Because the houseless will now be back into the river valley and they'll set up their tents and they'll be conveniently away from everybody. We don't have to deal. You don't have to, they're not going to have that, the eyesore, right? Camp Pekawewin by the ballpark. We don't have to look at that anymore. Thank God. What an aesthetic inconvenience to the city skyline. I don't know, man. Shame on all of us. Who's the sponsor that wants to go first after that? I know Chris.
The most prime airtime if you go
Chris
first
Labossiere. Chris Labossiere will be happy to go first on this. Chris and his family own Local Waste, and for more than 25 years, for more than 25 years, they've been managing waste removal and recycling in the city of Edmonton as a family-owned business, and they want your business. They love to talk trash, and if they want to. You want to get a bin behind your business right now. Maybe you want to renegotiate. You've been with the big garbage guys and you go, we can get a better deal. I guarantee you that Local Waste will find a way to earn your business because we're hearing from real talkers that say that's exactly been the case. You can find them online under the sponsors tab at ryanjesperson.com. That's also where you'll find the team from St. Albert and Sherwood Dodge. The 2021 Jeep lineup is one for the ages, not just because they're bringing back that Grand Wagoneer, which I know a lot of people are excited about in the luxury SUV market, but also all the way down on the bang for buck file. The 7-passenger Grand Cherokee is a beautiful rig. And then, of course, there's that Wrangler, the Rubicon, the Gladiator, and then the fuel-efficient Compass. For all things Jeep, you won't find a better selection than you will at Sherwood and St. Albert Dodge. I was lucky enough to talk to the team from Friesen Brothers yesterday. Doug Loveson, the president of the company, he was actually touring their store in South Edmonton. They're getting set to open March 5th. He says to me, you are going to be blown away when you walk through these doors. They're doing kind of a soft open. They know it's not really the time for a big gathering, but the doors will be open March 5th, and they encourage you to check it out. Friesen Brothers is proudly Alberta grown and Alberta owned. Wanted to remind you, the team at Park Power has a $70 incentive for you to bring your business to them, whether it's your commercial or residential file. They're in the business of electricity, natural gas, and internet. Maybe some of our guests could get a Park Power sponsorship for internet. What do you think? We could dangle that to guests coming up on the show.
It's not a bad idea. Yeah.
If you use the promo code 2021-RealTalk at parkpower.ca, they're going to give you $70 off your first bill, which is an absolutely great incentive there. Eden Landscaping. We're grateful for their support here on the show. Eden right now wants to invite you to check out their website at landscapeedmonton.ca and start dreaming. Pretty soon, before you know it, spring will be upon us, whether it's a retaining wall, whether it's planters, or whether it's a complete overhaul of your outdoor space. Regardless of your budget, they want to work with you. They can use Zoom and Google Earth now to get the ball rolling and then ultimately make your dream a reality. Again, at ryanjesperson.com under the sponsors link, you'll find them, and that's also where you'll find Alta Moving and Storage. It's almost the season. It's almost time to get moving. So you might as well put the pieces in place now. Alta Moving and Storage has these pod-style containers that make moving easy, and they take the stress away. They can provide laborers to do all the heavy lifting, or if you want to do it yourself, they can accommodate that too. And of course, if there's a transition time in between, they have those long and short-term storage solutions. They've got you covered, Real Talkers, at Alta Moving and Storage. You can find them under the sponsors tab at ryanjesperson.com. Friends, it's been one of those mornings. We're grateful that you're here along for the ride. If you missed a part of Blake Desjarlais' interview, remember, you can catch it on our podcast. Make sure to subscribe, rate us, leave a comment, and share that podcast with your friends. Coming up tomorrow on the show, we've got a great one you won't want to miss, including a look at beef. Can it actually be sustainable? And, of course, Black History Month, the Roundtable coming up Friday at 9. In the meantime, check out ryanjesperson.com. We'll talk to you soon.